Alex Ansary here. Somewhere new, we're actually on top of running water because that's our topic. We're going to talk about running water and some of the things. I've read the first half of a book by a guy named Robert Bruce, who talks about a subject called psychic self-defense. And so, there's a number of different authors out there that have addressed the topic. I started looking at the topic more around 2009 or 10. More so 9. And then speaking about it more so by 2012, 13, escalating into 2015, 16 with the Archon podcast series. So I've learned about a lot of this stuff from experience and thinking about the advice from Robert Bruce about running water. I think about those times in which I may not have been exposed to as much running water. Say last year when I was on the land most of the time, this year with my car running better than it's been after putting what money I had into the car to get some repairs done and have some adjustments done, get the starter fixed. And so, I've been a lot more focused in the last few days and last few weeks, but I've also been spending more time around water. I mean, nature is healing. We all know that. I mean, some things is like an obvious. But water is also a conduit. So when you're sitting in water and you have your feet in water, we can use nature as a tool to the intentions that we put out. Doesn't mean that you can't ground yourself in an urban environment. I'm going to touch on this. I think there are things going on, though, for a lot of us that are sensitive in urban environments where we can end up ungrounded. Other people's cell phones and signals, other people in general, they're a signal, they're transmitting and receiving. The nature of the water not being clean in urban environments. Maybe you've heard about Portland, Oregon, for example. For those of you that live there, you hear all the time about the heavy rains that bring the sewage into the Willamette River. And then it's like a headline. And it's like they spent already how much? At least 500 million, maybe even to the tune of billions, to fix their septic program. This, ladies and gentlemen, is modern civilization. So the polluted river, which the Native Americans also called that the river of death, and they saw their demise 10 years after Lewis and Clark came through and the disease that swept through the region. I bring that up for a reason. I've always felt a connection between dirty water and polluted minds. So there is a way we can use nature, not worshiping nature, but elements of nature and travel to enhance our spiritual growth. Because a strong spiritual platform is the foundation to protect your psyche. That's where it begins. To the point where you really don't need to think about protecting anything. It's just by living a more mindful life. Do I live completely like a monk? No. There's ways I can write about that and process that. And then ways I can go, where am I going to start challenging myself in 2018 where I was not challenging myself in 2017? Ways to prevent the energy from being stagnant. It's like when I'm writing now by hand, now several hours a day, and I'm trying to keep that up as like a regular routine, which I've never done as a regular routine. There's always some sort of an energy blockage that interrupts the flow. And so I'm thinking about this, the flow and the flowing of water. And then some things come to us, it comes and it goes. To bring it back down to the signals, like the hidden messages in water from the Japanese scientist, our thoughts impact water and we're made of water. And so we have thoughts bouncing back and forth, and we're becoming increasingly aware that we're psychically linked through the internet, through social media technology, which can prove to be a little bit invasive once people start living on technology and keeping their phones with them and having deeper relationships with people on the internet than they are with nature or themselves or with others. There can be an imbalance. But how can we turn this into a positive? The other thing that I want to say is, despite the reports of the YouTube purge, many of those people that we spoke about have their channels back, for example. And we can also see some people are doing okay. And yet it seemed like the sky was falling last year. I'm about it the same. But right now, I'm just working on not letting the fear and the worry of even where YouTube can go, as well as the world, overly consume me. That's why the last few days, I'm taking a backseat to reposting news and things of that nature, instead going with the flow of my own thoughts and my own information and my own energy. As I start putting more words down on paper. What is our story? As opposed to the story of ourselves, of our history, of our people, that they want to tell us. So there's something powerful about water. You should also note that there are certain ways that humans behave that almost seems like they're in line with nature, but they may not be in line with nature and spirit. They may just be humans on instinct. Humans may migrate around the water and build cities around the water and yet pollute that water, desecrate that water. They may not understand the solar cycles and the influence of the sun over our lives, but they may migrate to places where they're still feeling a certain effect from the sun when it's out and about, places like Southern California and others. But the sun also provides life to other things that need to be protected, that need to be appreciated. And yet you find natural areas where there's a full bag of garbage because someone is desecrating nature because they do not actually respect the spirit. But out of instinct, they will feed on nature. They will feed on nature. Just because we have people on the internet and Facebook acting like they're woke because they're saying that they want organic food and not Monsanto doesn't mean that they're woke. You can go back 500 years. You can go back some other time where somebody's being invaded by some group of beings. I could tell you they're probably eating all organic food. What does that have to do with anything? Why is that the all-to-go? Or the source of our world's evil? No, it's the lack of compassion. Maybe if those waters were cleaner. Maybe it's more than just not drinking water with fluoride in it. Maybe it's having a connection with not only water. Did you know that people are mostly made up of water? What's that connection? Water, people, connection to each other, oneness, a collection of energy, a frequency of blood. And those different frequencies of blood, different ethnic bloodlines. Think about the evolution of ourselves. What would that look like? Would it look more or less warlike? Or would there be more dialogue? See, that's how I tend to look at nature. Outside this box of separation. I see some people here and elsewhere, and I'm not any different. But some ways I am. I've adjusted to being alongside water and speaking about things like this. I've never stumbled upon someone speaking their truth or gnosis ever into a microphone or a camera in all my travels. Or on a regular basis visiting some of the same spots that I do and having that same communion with nature. It's more of like a passing by, like a natural Disneyland, like, oh wow. And like myself, they may have that, wow, just the silence. But see, there's something to be said about where that's novel to those of us humans that have never actually truly lived in nature, including myself. I mean, to where there's no technology. You're just like, and that's therapeutic. Now, it doesn't mean that just living in nature by itself can create an enlightened person. I think it can drive some people mad, actually. I've seen it, actually. So, I see a strong benefit to a lifestyle that has the flow. At least for the last few days with a working car, and God willing, it will continue. Mixing things up, investing a few dollars here and there in the gas to visit these spots, to make these videos, to then go back home and write some more, and then having deeper dreams, and then stepping back from some of the addictions like too much nicotine, in this case, not smoking nicotine. And since visiting the dentist, there's been some major changes in goals. that I've chosen to make regarding my own life and health. And things that I should be closer to, and things that shouldn't be entering my mouth at the rate that it was before. Things like a lot of candy, things like soda. And I also see benefit in traveling and recording some of these thoughts with nature running alongside. You know, because we're being affected. You're being affected by the quality of videos that you watch. I've been, I just tend to massage my heart in different parts. I'll feel sensations as I ground more and release certain energy. You know, there'll be certain sensations in parts of the body. And at least for me, being someone that's really sensitive, those might be, places to massage. Also, to me, it's really like, and I've said this before, but when you're like cross-training, doing different things that challenge the mind at the same time, writing, meditating in nature, from deep breathing, or just observing, quieting your thoughts, reading a book. There's actually a book that I have that I'm gonna break out in just a little bit on Carlos Castaneda, Separate Reality. And I feel reading a book like that is more valuable than listening to someone online that claims to have channeled a being from another dimension. Just mixing it up with other activities, getting more exercise, getting more sun. It's been a long time since I've engaged in painting and drawing. But I was talking about these exact same things this time last year, in spring. So it's not uncommon. Another person just walked by. It's not uncommon. You can also look at this as the New Year's. Does it really feel like New Year's when it's January 1st? It feels like this is the new year. This is the period of spring forward. After a period of rest. And what do we spring forward for? And also, we talk about grounding yourself when there's a geomagnetic storm instead of, allowing it to influence you towards aggression. We just had like a full day of geomagnetic storms on and off, on and off, on and off. And I see that as something that is something to not only continue to study, but something to use as a tool like the running water to push through stuck energy and blockages that we need to push through in order to take the next step forward. Are you taking the next step forward in your life? It was just over there, a few feet away, where I was asking in another video about, have you identified those things that help you remain grounded? And I'm asking those questions as I'm realizing these are the core issues to keep coming back to. This isn't clickbait. This is some of the core information on my channel. And then, I get to learn as the years go on, what are the things that tend to hold me back and pull me back into the matrix, and what are those things that tend to set me free? And then where, despite my age now at 38, there's plenty of things I've never done. Where is there new ground that needs to be broken? For example, more videos by the river, more writing by hand, going out and about, understanding that a disciplined Alex is one that can A, remain in the same place for weeks on end without seeing another human being, but B, will see his job as going out in the world and evolving as an independent being. Someone that's not just going to stay stuck in the same place. If the car is working, it's time to go hiking. We'll be going hiking in just a little bit, by the way, and record some new thoughts there. But as someone that has, at least I feel in my spirit, tasked myself with helping others, I have responsibility to work on myself on a regular, ongoing basis. And there's something about this year of 2018 that seems more important than the previous years for accomplishing certain personal missions, because we're going to be challenged and tasked with other things in the years ahead. So now is the time, during the quiet before the storm, to work on ourselves. So use the tools. Don't be afraid of the solar storms. Don't be afraid of the natural earth changes. don't be afraid of some of the changes that you're seeing in human society, right? We're in a massive change in epoch, which is not marked by 2012, but for most of us, like the entirety of our lifetimes, like this cycle of time, this generation, from the analog to the digital. And there's certain moments in time that exist for us to make those breakthroughs, and using nature as above, so below as conduits to make that change.